Hello, Holy Trinity family, and happy feast of Saint Mary Magdalene to you. I was at a small home liturgy last weekend to honor Mary Magdalene, and I was surprised that someone asked whether Mary Magdalene is a saint. Yes, Mary Magdalene has been revered as a saint from the very first days of the Christian movement. And from every written source, all four Gospels, and some recently found, like late 19th century and recently translated, like mid 20th century, fragments of a Gospel of Mary, we have evidence of her spiritual authority and leadership among the earliest followers of Jesus. She was an apostle. She knew it, Jesus knew it, and the others knew it. And she is a saint. On this feast of St. Mary Magdalene, I encourage you to spend some time reading today's Gospel, John 20, verses 11 to 18, and praying with it. It is a Gospel reading that the Catholic lectionary in the U.S. does not proclaim on any Sunday, not even Easter Sunday. And it's about the first appearance of Jesus in his risen form. So if you have any time, join today or watch recordings of some of the many Mary Magdalene celebrations and lectures online hosted by Boston College, Future Church, and others, some of which I am going to link to in this text. Why do I encourage you to do this? Because the more that I learn about St. Mary Magdalene, the more I find her to be a tower of strength, a fearless apostle, proclaimer of good news, who knew she was deeply loved by God and wants you and I to know it as well, and wants us to share this good news with others. So when I was praying with this passage today, I turned to the prophet Isaiah, chapter 43, where this assurance of being loved is so beautifully conveyed. Thus says the Lord, who created you and formed you. Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. You are precious in my eyes and honored, and I love you. And then later, you are my witnesses. It's what Mary Magdalene experienced, and it's what is true for all people. Mary Magdalene is becoming a great inspiration for many, many people, and they're sharing their experience about what it means to them to be a descendant of Mary Magdalene, and sharing that, some of them, with Pope Leo. And I'm going to share with you now just a small sample of some of that testimony that's being sent. I wish I could read them all to you. I hope that he does read them all. And I also hope you reflect on what can she mean for you, for us. So here are some of those testimonies from others. Mary Magdalene is a woman who had the courage of her convictions. She inspires me as witness to those who thirst for a kind, just, and all-loving God in their lives by the flames of infinite, unconditional, and ineffable love. And then this, everyone is invited to the table. Everyone. And this, Jesus chose her to announce the resurrection. I'm so tired of those with privilege in the church telling those excluded why it's right for them to be excluded. And then this one, to be a descendant of Mary Magdalene means that I am loved deeply by Jesus. I am truly seen with the compassionate eyes of Jesus, just as he saw Mary Magdalene. Jesus chose Mary to be the first witness of his resurrection, and he spoke her name. Yet the other disciples did not believe her. I'm losing hope for equality in the church because the patriarchal church still refuses to listen to women's voices in the 21st century. And even on Easter, we do not hear the story of MM, Women's stories from the scriptures are not proclaimed at Mass in the Sunday Gospels. The many courageous and inspiring stories of women in the Hebrew scriptures and in the New Testament have been erased from the Sunday liturgies. We only hear about a masculine God and his men followers. Where are the women? And here's another. By denying women's voices, viewpoints, and worldviews, the church is that much impoverished. And someone else, she ministered to Jesus and no doubt understood his mission more than anyone else. She received the privilege of seeing him alive at the tomb and to proclaim to the apostles, "I have seen the Lord." He gave her this mandate. Even if she was a woman, so must the church do the same. And another one. Mary Magdalene was one of Jesus' closest confidants and was highly esteemed in the early church. I'm disappointed that the church over the centuries has diluted women's voices and excluded them from ministry. And someone wrote, as a descendant of Mary Magdalene, I share the trauma with all women in the church of being marginalized, vilified, silenced, persecuted, ridiculed, and shamed by the powerful leaders of the church. Mary Magdalene had God-given authority to be the apostle to the apostles. Mere men took that away, created a story to discredit her, and upheld that scandalous story until quite recently. Mary Magdalene inspires me to stay in the church and work to help create a church more in line with what Jesus himself modeled. And here's a prayer. Holy Sister Magdalene, first witness of the resurrection, keep us beneath your mantle and lead us to Christ. And here's a testimony. As a child, I was told that I could not be ordained because I was a girl, and God only chose boys. I knew in my soul that was not true. Mary Magdalene showed me that I was called to serve God by the gifts he gave me as a female. Jesus was clear in his call to Mary and in her equal role to the male apostles. He gives that same call to me and all my sisters. And another. As the first person chosen by Jesus to announce the resurrection, Mary Magdalene gives me hope that women will no longer be limited by the church. And this person says, Mary Magdalene took initiative. She was not afraid to go to the tomb. She was not believed because, as today, men do not necessarily believe what women have to say. It's sad how the church has kept her hidden until recently. Mary Magdalene represents so many women who want to tell their story within the church but are not allowed to. Jesus welcomed her. Why can't members of the hierarchy welcome her and encourage her in what she has been called to? Please listen, Pope Leo, to this call. It will not be easy for you, but listen to the movement of the Spirit. Here's another. I'm a convert from Judaism, and I began to be deeply moved by the Catholic faith 20 years ago. Coming from a family with a strong emphasis on justice and women's rights was very drawn to Mary Magdalene. I think Jesus chose her as the first person to witness the resurrection as part of a plan to emphasize the equality of women and men. She has inspired me for years and is a saint who moves and motivates me to be a better person and as an advocate for Jesus' love for all of us. There's so many more. And I hope you'll write your own. Here's another. Mary Magdalene inspired me to keep up with my studies as I pursued my master's degree in theology. She gave me hope for the inclusion of women in the sacrament of holy orders, and therefore hope for the future of our church. Please hear her voices through her life story. Now is the time of renewed hope, and it is time to realize the current leadership status quo is on nimble legs. Now is the time to strengthen our Catholic Church, inspired by and set as examples by faith in the countless women in our faith history. I love this one. She inspires my faith as she resiliently follows Christ during the tough times. She had the courage to stand at his crucifixion and announce the news of his resurrection. She has been dismissed through the ages as prostitute as a way of dismissing her, but she stood physically, historically, and spiritually alongside Jesus and his mother Mary. My hope is that her persistence will continue to strengthen me. I'm now 75, and for over 30 years, I've had a persistent calling to sacramental ministry, which I cannot test within the current church structures. As a mother, grandmother, widow, social worker, counselor, former hospice bereavement coordinator and pastoral worker with a theology master's. I'm a member of a parish, and I also work in pastoral care with older religious sisters. My vision is to be acceptable as part of a sacramental team ministry in my parish and wider, offering my gifts and life experience to others sacramentally and spiritually. I want to read all of them to you. I'll include some more in the text if you take the time to read it, and I only have included a small sample. I just want to thank you for listening to all these voices and encourage you to add yours as well. As my friend and biblical scholar Lizzie Byrne-DeGeer has said, Mary Magdalene reveals that there's some aspect of the good news that can only come through you and your own experience and story. And that when you share yourself and your story as only you can, you let resurrection flow into the world. So the question I leave you with on this Feast of Mary Magdalene is this: how do you personally experience the resurrection, the risen Christ, the power of love to outlive death, the truth of your being loved with that infinite love, and then trusting your own experience? How do you, or how will you, share that truth with authority with others? Happy Feast of St. Mary Magdalene.